Some LGBTQ2S plus Catholics disappointed in Vatican statements on blessing couples.
Shift in policy by the Vatican will now permit Catholic priests to bless same-sex couples. Pope Francis made the formal approval today, but the Roman Catholic Church still insists that ritual should not be confused with the sacrament of marriage, which it maintains is between a man and a woman. Here's CTV's Judy Trent.
One day after celebrating his 87th birthday, Pope Francis made a landmark ruling directed at gay Catholics. The Vatican, in a move to welcome more people into the church, declared that priests could bless same-sex unions.
Isn't it a little bit sketchy that, like, I don't know, it's not, we all know this. The church always seems to make moves just to increase the amount of people in the church. Like, that is actually their, like, focus in most of these public releases. Now, not to be too critical, but I will be critical. If your religion has to fundamentally change the way it does something to get more people, I would question your attachment to your religion.
Overdue. You know, if Jesus said love was love, then love is love, isn't it?
It's such a big step that I would...
And not to be too critical either, but isn't Jesus the Son? Is the Son and the Holy Ghost, like, aren't they all supposed to be one person? So it's a decree from God. I don't think, like, I don't know enough about it. I
take a blessing, you know, since I'm already married.
The policy
it is beautiful. I'm very positive about this stuff happening. Like, don't get me wrong. If I'm critical of the moderate hypocrisy in this event, but also too, I find it more love there is in the world, the more happy people, the more acceptance we have, the better off the world is.
Woman. The blessings will not look like a marriage ceremony, but would allow gay parishioners to feel welcome in participating in some rites.
They are welcome to receive the sacrament of communion and confession should they choose to.
The church's attitude has significantly shifted since the beginning of the year, when the Pope had signaled his intentions for the policy change. Every man and woman must have a window in life when they can see the dignity of God. And being homosexual isn't a crime. It is a human condition, said the Pope in January. But the Catholic Church still considers homosexuality a sin. And critics say the ban on same-sex marriage contradicts its attempts to be more inclusive.
Our bodies are still considered to be inferior, and that our relationships are considered to be inferior. So, you know, I see pockets and glimmers of hope with this Pope, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to have a huge positive impact.
In addition to...
I will ask, why is that an issue? Like, why do you need your enemy to accept you? Like, your enemy? Why do you need people who don't accept you to accept you? Call them backwater. Just call them what they are. Outdated, and laugh. I don't like, this serious tone. That's what gets to me, is the very serious tone of, this is not enough. This is whatever. It's like, it's the church. The church is not any step forward towards progress is good in a religious sense, because religion, again, is supposed to be very it has been very structured. So anytime someone changes the foundation of their ideas to include you, thumbs up. I would not be like, to me it's like, well, you're virtue signaling. You're saying, you know, I'm gonna accept everybody. Well, it's like you were evil by not accepting people before, but also I don't need to be accepted to your group. You don't need to accept me for me to be me. It is a big move, of course, socially, because there's a lot of real small-minded people that only listen to the church as like a very, like, they're like, oh, God said this is a sin. God said this isn't a sin. So the church has to say these things, but why would you give them a hard time? It's like having a group of mass murderers, and they're like, you know what? We've decided killing children isn't good. And someone's sitting there like, I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's enough. not good enough. It's like, oh, well, I don't know, man. I don't know about that one.
Offering blessings for same-sex relationships, the Pope also said in November that transgendered people could be baptized in the church and become godparents. Omar, it's all part of the Pope's vision for a more inclusive church.
All right, Judy, thank you for
What some are calling a landmark
All right.
ruling.
Let's actually take a look at the article. Which the article might be the exact same thing that we just looked at, but we'll take a peek. Toronto, Frank Teston was hopeful when he heard Pope Francis would allow priests to bless same-gender couples. He thought it was a small step towards LGBTQ acceptance in the Roman Catholic Church. Then he read what the Vatican actually said. The mention that the union LGBT people have with their partners cannot be compared in any way to marriage. I find this really objectionable, said Teston, 73, who married his husband 13 years ago. It's a blow to the stomach. They didn't accept you anyways, so I don't know why you'd be against this. While some are indeed welcoming Monday's doctrinal declaration as a sign of progress, other Canadian Catholics see the document as cementing the church's existing position. That romantic relationships between people of the same gender are lesser than those of heterosexual counterparts. It says some judgmental, stern, and not very loving comments towards LGBTQ2S+ members. Church members who are or want to be in relationships, said Teston, a Toronto resident who was raised Catholic and still attends Mass. The document from the Vatican's Doctrine Office reaffirms the position that marriage is between a man and a woman, but says priests can, under some circumstances, bless couples in irregular situations, couples of the same sex. Big article, yeah. The document stresses that the blessings cannot in any way resemble the sacrament of marriage. They cannot set rituals or even involve the clothing and gestures that belong in a wedding. It should be spontaneous, the document says. It should not happen during or even in connection with ceremonies of civil union. For Teston, this is disappointing. It feels insignificant. It's almost like sitting down with a priest who you met on the streets, and you decide to have lunch with, he said. You ask the priest to bless the food. For 40 years, Teston had been a part about this person. Is that what this article is? It literally is just about this person. Difficult. Hard to estimate with nationality. Yeah. It's an article stretched out way too